Later on Night Watch, your tax dollars may be paving the road for new highways, but do we need them? That story and more on CBS News Night Watch.
Eye on America. The law says if you're an unwed mother on welfare, the state gives you money. This man says marry and we'll give you more.
The federal law says if you get married, you can't get any assistance. What is wrong with changing that?
It is a bribe. You give him money just to marry the guy.
To marry or not to marry on the CBS Evening News tomorrow.
This is CBS.
You're watching Indiana's own Wish TV Channel 8.
You're watching Indiana's only 24-hour television news service, closed caption for the hearing impaired. Now, Mike Ahern, Debbie Knox, weather with Cliff Nicholson, and the sports team of Fred Khalil and Mark Patrick. Live from Wish TV, this is 24-hour News 8.
Good evening. For the first time, Fred Sanders and the Indianapolis police officers are in agreement. That's because the former school teacher today asked for a trial to prove his innocence in the fatal shooting of an Indianapolis police officer.
You may recall it was August of 1988 when a neighbor's complaint over Sanders' dogs prompted officers to enter Sanders' home. Sanders shot a patrolman and fellow officers shot and beat Sanders. As Liz Daly tells us tonight, whether a trial will actually take place is still a big question.
I really didn't want to accept the plea, and I only did that on recommendation of my attorneys.
2.5 years after Fred Sanders accepted a plea agreement of involuntary manslaughter for the 1988 fatal shooting of Indianapolis police officer Matt Faber, it looks like Sanders will get the trial he said he wanted from the beginning.
I think if the prosecutor and some of the police who have some honesty and ethics would stand up and be counted and really tell the truth about what happened, there wouldn't really be any need for all of this.
Ironically, Fred Sanders' decision was exactly what police officers were hoping for. They, too, want the facts to come out. They, too, want a chance to be vindicated.
Officer Faber was shot in the back, indicating he was, at least at that point, trying to flee the home. I think those facts will bear out.
Some technicalities prompted then-prosecutor Stephen Goldsmith to offer the plea agreement, which carries a maximum 7 years in prison. Then, last month, a judge overturned that agreement, saying Sanders did not knowingly accept it. Exactly 1 month after that decision, Sanders requests a jury trial. That trial is set for July 8th.
All I can do is put my faith in our jury system and hope that justice can prevail.
But an appeal by Marion County Prosecutor Jeff Modisett may postpone or even cancel a trial. It's challenging the judge's decision was improper.
Any competent prosecutor would have rewritten an information, handed it to Mr. Sanders, and said, this is what you're pleading guilty to.
Modisett says that's a technicality that needn't be addressed.
Because it's automatically a lesser included offense anyway, and the person is informed of what the statute calls for, and therefore he's informed of all his rights, and it's an unnecessary additional step.
It's unclear at this point if the Court of Appeals will delay Sanders' trial while it considers whether or not to uphold the lower court's decision. In Indianapolis, Liz Daly, Wish TV, News 8.
The 47-year-old Sanders is serving his sentence in the Branchville Training Center near Tell City.
Well, tonight, police are still looking for the man who abducted and apparently molested a 2-year-old Indianapolis girl over the weekend. Alicia Stallings is back home safely after the ordeal, which began early Sunday afternoon. The girl was playing with her brother in the backyard when a man riding a moped lured Alicia out with a popsicle. The girl was found about 2 miles from her home along railroad tracks near the Indianapolis Zoo. Her parents say they've learned a frightening lesson.
They won't be out of my sight. They're staying in the house until we're moved.
Until we're moved. But still,
I don't care if they do catch him.
It's not just this area. It could be anywhere. We're like, it just wasn't somebody that picked her up and had her sold already.
The suspect is described as a white man in his early 20s with brown or dark blonde hair. He was driving a dark-colored moped. If you have any information, call the Indianapolis Police at 236-3811.
Meanwhile, at Kings Island near Cincinnati, the investigation continues into 2 bizarre incidents that left 3 people dead. A 20-year-old Cincinnati man and a park security guard were electrocuted last night while trying to save a 3rd man who fell into a pond near the German beer garden area. Officials are trying to figure out where that charge came from. Less than an hour later, a Toledo woman was killed when she fell or was thrown from the Flight Commander, a twisting, turning thrill ride.
She rotated one time, and on the second time she started to go around. She was rotating left, and as she was rotating left, when about halfway around the turn, it just slung her out of the ride. She went head first and threw her about 35 to 40 feet away from the ride.
Riders on the Flight Commander are restrained by shoulder harnesses. The accident marks the first time since Kings Island opened 19 years ago that someone has been killed on a ride. The park was open today, but the ride itself was closed.
Well, in just a moment, a look at today's big Desert Storm Parade in New York. But right now, Cliff Nicholson's first weather for Tuesday. Cliff?
Hello, everybody. Wasn't it a nice weekend? Oh, temperature's very pleasant. Today we had some clouds move into town. The high temperature was 82. Any rain? No, at least not over the past 12 hours. Anyway, notice there is a front back here with associated moisture. I'll talk more about that coming up in a few minutes. But for the first forecast tonight, cloudy skies, quite calm with temperatures hovering in the upper 60s. And then by tomorrow morning, showers developing late in the day. This is just to give you a hint of what may be developing tomorrow. Temperatures by sunrise in the mid-60s. All the rest of the weather, just a few minutes.
Thank you, Cliff. Well, the weather cooperated today for one of the largest ticker tape parades in New York history. Hundreds of thousands of people lined the streets of Manhattan for Operation Welcome Home. As the crowd cheered, 24,000 soldiers marched along a 16-block route. Along the way, more than 200 miles of ticker tape and about 10,000 pounds of confetti were dropped on the troops. A fireworks display over the East River capped the festivities tonight, and we'll show you some of that a little later in our newscast.
Well, Debbie, leaders of the Presbyterian Church USA have rejected a controversial proposal to give church blessings to premarital sex, homosexuality, and bisexuality. Protests were loud and clear as anti-reform members waved Bibles and shouted, "Don't compromise the Word of God." Both sides admit the question of sex between unmarried partners of any persuasion is tearing the church apart, and that had a strong effect on the voting. Many Presbyterian liberals who approve of the proposal voted against it to prevent the church from fracturing. Church leaders say members have not had enough time to give the liberalization proposal a great deal of consideration. There is nothing, they say, to prevent the reforms from passing by a majority vote a few years down the road from now. Still to come on your 24-hour news service, another deadline for state lawmakers.
And a bit later, Patty Spittler on some big changes in a primetime sitcom.
More than 100 North Vernon workers are still on strike 2 years after their walkout. I'm Lisa Tubman. I'll have the story coming up on News 8.
The war is over, but victory has its price. Lives have been lost, families shattered. We're confronted with images of people who are sick, starving, in need of shelter and struggling for their lives. They are innocent victims. I have felt the pain. I've seen the need. We cannot ignore this challenge. The Red Cross has been helping from the beginning, and we're committed to continue helping as long as humanitarian aid is needed. You can help. Please. Support the American Red Cross Gulf Crisis Fund.
Call 1-800-842-2200.
This is Ken Owen. If you enjoy helping people, Methodist Hospital is looking for individuals to serve as hospitality escorts, guiding visitors and patients through the hospital.
The Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce says it will take a whopping $1.1 billion over the next decade to get the city's infrastructure up to snuff. 53% of that would go to street repairs, 38% to sewer improvements, and a little less than 5% for city parks. Where would this money come from, you ask? Well, a four-part funding solution calls for a 21% increase in the current sewer use fee, a new stormwater discharge fee, property tax-based bonds, and a new small income tax. At this point, the measures are just recommendations. They'd have to be approved before actually taking effect.
And while the city searches for more money, so are state lawmakers. Today, House Speaker Michael Phillips issued the latest ultimatum. Phillips says he wants a budget agreement by Wednesday, or he'll consider adjourning the special session of the Indiana General Assembly. If that would happen, Governor Bayh would seek court authorization to run the state. Meanwhile, the Budget Conference Committee did inch toward an agreement today. They'll meet again tomorrow to discuss the differences in the two measures passed by the chambers. Meanwhile, some of the people caught in the middle of the state budget battle, Indiana teachers began applying for unemployment benefits. As many as 900 former Marion County teachers could converge on the unemployment insurance line this week. An unemployment claim lasts a year, and the maximum benefits range from $96 to $161 a
That's
week.
certainly not going to pay my rent or anything else, really. I'm not even sure that's going to pay for me to go look for a job.
I like being independent, and I don't like having to depend on tax dollars to pay my way.
By the way, after these folks filled out their applications, several of the teachers went to the State House to demand answers about the state of budget negotiations.
Imagine what it would be like to be on strike from your job, not for a few weeks or months, but for more than 2 years. That scenario is reality for more than 100 Arvin industry workers in North Vernon, Indiana, as their dispute with a Columbus-based company intensifies. As News 8's Lisa Tutman shows us tonight, workers continue to ride a wave of uncertainty about the future of their jobs.
Oh, look at that, a pear. A small trailer is temporary refuge from the sun, and a few hands of cards help bide the time. They have been on strike against Arvin Industries for 2 years, but these North Vernon factory workers don't plan on giving up.
Until they settle it one way or the other. I'm out for the whole thing. Until they give us something in there that's satisfactory, why, I'm out for all the time it takes.
Don Davis is doing his share on the picket line while trying to support 4 children.
It causes a little friction. I mean, you know, the bills and everything, but we get by. I've worked part-time on doing things, and we're getting by.
It was April 1989 when more than 200 workers walked off the job after the company asked for a 30% pay cut and reductions in insurance benefits and cost of living increases. More than 50 workers eventually returned to their jobs. 147 remain on strike. While the dispute continues, the lines of communication are apparently still open. Workers gathered Monday night to hear and dispute Arvin's latest proposal to end the 2-year walkout.
So we will either submit a new proposal of our own to them, but we're going to keep them at the table and keep talking.
It took less than 10 minutes for workers here to decide it's now back to the drawing board.
The proposal they presented with us, there's no chance of it getting settled in this way because it's not what the people want. They want their jobs back. They want the replacement workers out, and they won't get rid of the replacement workers.
Meanwhile, Woodson says at least the company is talking. She says the UAW will capitalize on that by keeping the dialogue going. In North Vernon, Lisa Tutman, Wish TV, News 8.
Arvin representatives won't go on camera with their comments, but News 8 was told today that concessions need to be made to make the company more competitive. Meanwhile, the striking workers have until June 15th to respond to the company's latest offer.
Well, when we come back, meteorologist Cliff Nicholson, along with some great shots from the shuttle that were taken today. Well, tonight, the Space Shuttle Columbia sends us back some amazing pictures. But these pictures are not of space, they are of the Earth. Taken from the shuttle, these images show how Earth looks to the astronauts. On the 6th day of the 9-day mission, the crew continues medical tests to study the effects of weightlessness on the body. The Columbia is expected to return to Earth on Friday. So far, so good, apparently so.
If you look closely at those pictures, you can see Cliff Nicholson, a little dot on your picture, looking up at the skies, wondering, is it going to rain tonight?
I was looking down at that shot saying, there's some cirrocumulus creeping around there.
That's exactly what I was thinking, cirrocumulus.
Sure is, exactly.
A neat shot. Maybe a little rain, enough to tease the yards tomorrow, so to speak. I don't see anything heavy at this point, but at least, you know, a little something after a week of
dryness. We'll take anything right now.
Yeah. Well, how'd we do today? The high temperature, as I mentioned, very top of the program, 82 degrees after a low this morning of 61. No rainfall past 24 hours, or for a week for that matter. Currently under cloudy skies, it is 69 degrees. The dew point temperature is starting to rise a little bit. Eventually, that moisture has to fall out of the sky. Anyway, that's 64 degrees. Relative humidity, 84%. Winds out of the southwest at 5 miles per hour, and the barometer reads 30.08. and it's steady. Past 24 hours across Indiana. Some clouds are beginning to move in ahead of the front. Not much moisture associated with it. All the rain today almost back here to the west with thunderstorms exploding. And also over Louisiana, you know, over the past, well, over a 2-hour period in New Orleans today, folks there picked up 5 inches of rainfall in 2 hours. Amazing amount of rain, given the fact there were no hurricanes or anything else like that in that region. Take a look at radar beneath the clouds here. Showers and thunderstorms still from Colorado over into Texas. 2 tornadoes reported today, 1 in Colorado, 1 in Iowa. No reports of injuries or damage. Clouds right now over the central section of the state, but again, most of the showers back to the west. Current temperatures throughout the region, mostly 70s everywhere except for, again, Indy right now, 69 degrees, and Evansville at 75, and Dayton, Ohio coming in at 74 degrees. This is the weather scenario. High pressure down here in the south. Moist air still flowing around it, and that's still coming up into our region. Here's this little cool front, but it doesn't look like that cold front is going to come flying into Indiana. It looks like right now as though the major energy of this thing is still going to stay up to the north of the state, although showers and thunderstorms still along its path from Texas up into the northeast, some showers and thunderstorms back to the west. High temperatures for the nation tomorrow, 60s and 70s up there in the Pacific Northwest. Down in the deserts, 90s and 100s. In our region, mostly 80s. Forecast for this evening in Indianapolis. Cloudy skies tonight with a low temperature of about 64 degrees. Normal low is 60. The normal high is 81. Looky there, we should be right seasonal for tomorrow. Mostly cloudy and a chance of some showers and maybe a storm or two popping up. Tomorrow night, clearing skies, a low temperature in the mid to low 60s. Wednesday, partly sunny and seasonal. High temperature again in the low 80s. And the extended forecast keeps it dry again, it looks like, all the way through Saturday, and maybe a thunder shower at this point on Saturday. So let's hope we get something out of this little system working its way in tomorrow.
Terrific, yeah, because we looked up at the skies tonight. It looked like it was going to rain, but have to wait till tomorrow.
It didn't.
Some clouds out there, though.
Thank you, Cliff. Mark Patrick with sports.
Did you get a new tie?
He did get a new tie.
Looks like a couch. Couch pattern.
And speaking of patterns, boy, strike 3. No, that's gone. Baseball action coming up next. Mark Patrick, we tried to guess. Sports is coming up next.
Payday. Do 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 Jeopardy. Any questions?
Weeknights at 7:30 on Wish TV.
Call Ask a Nurse 24 hours a day, every day, to get free confidential answers to your health care questions. The number to call is 1-800-777-7775.
America, tell me what is there on the ground, America, seems like everywhere. Every day we grow a little of ourselves. It's time to care, reach in and share. You know we can help. Don't mess with America. We gotta be aware, we gotta treat her with care. Recycle America. We gotta stop in time, we gotta draw the line today. Recycle America. Don't just throw it all away.
The Indiana Bankers Association has a new chairman. Carl Erskine was named to the post today. Erskine is the president of Star Financial Bank of Anderson. But if Erskine's name rings a bell, you're probably a baseball fan. Back in the 1950s, Erskine was one of the top pitchers in the National League. He set a World Series strikeout record, and he threw a no-hitter. After his baseball days, Erskine returned to his hometown of Anderson. He's been a banker ever since.
Boy, and one nice man, too. Just a super guy. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Does a lot of charity work up there.
Yep. Good golfer, too. Just like you.
You know, Debbie, you keep bringing up this golf thing.
No, you
Just
had to.
because a guy hits a couple of 100 bad shots today.
No.
We had fun. I'll tell you a little bit about that soon, but lights were on in Wrigley as the Cubs faced the talent-laden Dodgers in the friendly confines tonight. But the Dodgers turned the lights out early. Beautiful night at Wrigley. Juan Samuel, big solo shot to left, his 7th home run of the year. And the Dodgers lead it early. Cal Daniel. Why'd the Reds ever let him go? Home run to right, a 2-run blast. And it got so out of hand that Doug DeCenzo finally got on the mound for the Cubs. This was a career highlight for Doug. Check it out. Mike Hartley, 6-4, 3 DP. DeCenzo gets a standing ovation, then 2 scoreless and hitless innings, walking only 1, but the Cubs lose. Hey, honey, I had too much to eat. I'm stuffed tonight. A giant shot from Howard Johnson, who doubles to right field. Greg Jeffries scores. How hard do you have to hit a ball to hit it out of the Astrodome? The Mets lead it 2-0. Then, Hubie Brooks shows you a solo shot. The Mets lead it 3-1 at this point, but 4 Astro runs in the 8th. John Franco takes the loss, and Houston wins it 6-4. Philadelphia at Cincinnati in a businessman special this afternoon. This was the big blast. Paul O'Neill with a 3-run home run, his 13th of the season. 21 had 4 RBI on the day. Jeff Reed had a big double here. He also had a terrific day for the Redlegs. 3 RBI. They win going away 9-3 over the Phillies. On the scoreboard, St. Louis beats San Francisco. The Cardinals have failed to score more than 3 runs in 8 straight games. Pittsburgh over San Diego. Jeff King a 2-run homer in the first. And Dennis Martinez gets the win. Dave Martinez and Tim Wallach homer in the win by Montreal. Texas at Chicago. That's the president's son, Marvin. At the White Sox game, they're in Texas. Chicago scores first as Frank Thomas gets Tim Raines in. 1-0 Chi Sox. Kevin Brown of Texas, though, pitching extremely well. This game now in the 13th, and it's tied at 1. Cleveland was in the Homer Dome tonight. Tom Kelly looks like he's ready to fall asleep any minute. But Ken Herbeck kind of wakes him up here with a sacrifice fly. That score. Dan Gladden, and Minnesota takes the early lead, 1-0. Mark Guthrie with the strikeout here for the Twin Cities. Twins win at 8-5 over the Tribe. 9 in a row for Minnesota. Paul Abbott with his first major league win. This game now in the 7th, Boston leading Seattle. All these West Coast games, Oakland by a run over Detroit. And in the 6th, Milwaukee leads Cleveland 7-1. The Indians were a winner. They play Rochester again tomorrow night. Late word on National League expansion now indicates Miami and Denver, the 2 cities, recommended to the Major League Ownership Committee on Wednesday and to the rest of the owners later that day. The sports world will soon turn its eye to the Circle City again in August when the PGA Championship is played at Crooked Stick. Single-day tickets went on sale today in Carmel for the August 5th through the 11th event. Committee Chairman Michael Browning told us today what brought the tournament to the Stick.
I think it was our ability to say to the PGA of America, this is the largest city around that doesn't host a PGA Tour event. And we've got a great track record in terms of volunteers and in terms of community support. And that's why we think you ought to come to Indianapolis. And I think at the end of the day, that's what carried it for us.
We want to thank everybody who played in the Conseco golf tournament today to benefit the Indiana Children's Wish Fund. Over $35,000 raised, so it was a terrific day.
That's where you brutalized the course, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Ken, for bringing that up
Mark,
again.
I'm just as bad.
Just about enough out of you.
I haven't golfed yet this year because I'm that bad, I'll tell you.
Well, speaking of sports, David Letterman in a professional baseball uniform. You'll see that when we come back.
Arnold Schwarzenegger in a music video? Maybe. And Spike Lee says he just might go back to the Cannes Film Festival. I'm Patty Spitler. I'll have that and more in just a moment.
What a party! Yeah! Hey, remember all those great campus parties in the 60s? Well, Sessions has a new 4-record set that's just loaded with all those great memories. It's called 60s Frat Rock. Just listen.
My baby does a hanky-panky.
You know you make me wanna kick my heels up and down. 60s Frat Rock contains 40 great party hits of the 60s. And every song is the original hit by the original artist.
I keep on dancing for
Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Judy in the sky. When I think about the good love you gave me, I try like a baby. Let's hang on to what we got. You'll also get great hits by the Turtles, Sam and Dave, the Kinks, and the Contours. Do you love me? I can really move. Change, change, change. Devil with the two-dress song. He's the devil with the two-dress song. Bully, bully. Bully, bully. Who's making love to your old lady? 60s Frat Rock is available on 4 records or 2 cassette tapes for only $19.95. 2 CDs, just $24.95. Here's how to order.
Credit card and COD customers call toll-free 1-800-228-1600 or save COD fees by sending $19.95 for 4 records or 2 cassettes or $24.95 for 2 compact discs plus $4 shipping and handling to 60s Frat Rock, P.O. Box 4000-KO, Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Imagine David Letterman pitching in the Atlanta Braves system. Well, Letterman will have to prove himself first, but he will get the chance. The Braves minor league team in Greenville, South Carolina, has accepted Letterman's challenge to let him prove that he can pitch 1 shutout inning. All Letterman has to do now is accept that offer.
Oh, that'll be interesting. Shake-up is coming to television's Designing Women. Patty Spitler has details on that and the rest of the entertainment news in tonight's report.
Good evening, a Monday, and here are a few people and things to catch up on, like the latest word on Designing Women. Delta Burke and Jean Smart are on their way out, and Saturday Night Live's Jan Hooks is on her way in. Burke leaves after feuding with producers, and Smart says she always planned to leave the show after her current contract expired. Smart will be written out of the show after a few more episodes, but no word on how Burke's departure will be handled. Delta, by the way, insists she's unaware of the whole affair, saying she's always the last to know anything on that set. And it's Arnold and Axel, that's right. Schwarzenegger and Rose have teamed up for a song in Arnold's new movie, Terminator 2. Indiana's own Axl Rose wrote You Could Be Mine to play while the closing credits run. And look for Arnold to appear in Axl's music video of the same title. That should be good. Spike Lee, director and actor, is now saying he hasn't completely written off the Cannes Film Festival. Lee lost 2 years in a row. This year his Jungle Fever lost to Barton Fink. But next year, says Lee, he might go back to Cannes as a judge, just to see how these things work from the inside, he says. Final respects were given to singer David Ruffin, one of the original Temptations today. Ruffin died June 1st of a drug overdose. The 50-year-old's funeral was attended by 25,000 fans in Motown, including Stevie Wonder, who sang. And Stevie says he'll not be going to get into politics. He mentioned he had a dream of becoming the mayor of Detroit, but now he says he's decided not to run for office. Why do that when you can sing, right? Thanks. Have a good evening, Ken and Debbie.
Thank you, Patty. Back with a final word for you after this.
$5 for records or cassettes, or $24.95 for 2 compact discs, plus $4 shipping and handling to Instrumental Magic, P.O. Box 1144-C, Monument, Colorado.
And finally tonight, another tribute to our troops. In New York City, where they had that huge ticker tape parade earlier today, this is how they capped off the celebration. A huge fireworks show lit up the skyline tonight as patriotic music played in the background. We'll let you enjoy the spectacle as we say goodnight. I'm Ken Owen.
And I'm Debbie Knox. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you.
Hi, I'm Larry Mize. You have a chance to beat the pro and win some big prizes, too. Tune in to Sports Locker with Fred Khalil and Mark Patrick, Sunday at 11:20 on Wish TV, Channel 8.